Hello YouTube and welcome to my new show Factoid. This is where I tell you interesting facts that you may or may not have known. So where better to start this new show than in an educational institute, a place of fact and knowledge. So I am at Victoria University's Kelburn campus today and I'm going to tell you one interesting thing about each building at this campus. So let's get to it. Well, here's a great start to my video. The sodding lift isn't working. Brilliant. Okay, so this is the Cotton building and we're in the dark here because some of the lights are out, and there's a lot of interesting things here that you can come and look at, and one of those things is this, and the IBM System 360 and 370 consoles. They are just preserved here and you can come and see them. You can come and press the buttons as well. Touch the switches, they're just preserved here. So that's our interesting thing in Cotton. Of course, the other interesting thing about Cotton Block is that it has the best view on campus. It would be even better if I didn't have to walk up 5 flights of stairs to get here, but annoyingly, the lift has broken down. Next here we are in the Alan McDiarmid building, and what's interesting about this building is that this is a modern building sandwiched in between two older buildings, because that way is the Cotton Block, which was built in the 1970s, and that way is the Laby building, which was also built in the 1970s. And this here, the Alan McDiarmid building, is a modern construction that has been built in between the two and linked them together. Okay, so this is the Laby building. Now there doesn't appear to be too much of interest to us here, but what is quite interesting is this service lift. And what's interesting about this service lift is you can see it's got manually operated doors. Now that's not too uncommon, but this lift was made in the 70s, which is when most companies had stopped making manually operated doors on lifts. So this would probably be one of the last ever manual door lifts ever made in this country. And I think that's rather interesting. Out here you can see a construction site, and this is just part of a massive new science block being built at Victoria University, and that in itself is pretty interesting. But what's interesting so far is that it hasn't actually got a proper name yet, because so far every building at this university is named after someone. Cotton, Laby, Alan McDiarmid, Hunter, McLaurin, they're all named after people, but so far this building doesn't appear to have been named after anybody yet. Or if it has been, then they certainly haven't made it public yet. Now I come to think of it, that's probably a pretty interesting fact in itself, is that just about all the buildings here are actually named after people. It's, you know, apart from one building, and we'll show you that very, very soon. Okay, now this is the McLaurin Block. Now McLaurin Block is home to 3 of the university's biggest lecture theatres, and it is also where most first-year students are guaranteed to have at least some of their lectures. I do. I've come in on the next day now, where McLaurin Lecture Theatre 101 is empty this morning, so you can get a good look at it. This is one of the biggest lecture theatres on campus. I have my English literature and history lectures in here. This is all of the teacher stuff. This is where the lecturers put their PowerPoints up, and that thing there controls all sorts of things. It can control the screens, it controls the projectors up the back, it can even control the lighting and the speakers just from that thing there. There are screens there that come down so that the lecturers can put their PowerPoints on. But yeah, this is one of the lecture theatres. I'm currently in the stairwell of the Rankine Brown Library. Now this library is interesting for 2 reasons. One, the library is actually separated into zones. There are green zones where you can talk, and blue zones when you have to be quiet. Now this place is also interesting because we have a bit of a recurring theme going on here. But let's take a quick look at the library. Here it is. That's the library. Behind me is Louis' best coffee on campus. No questions asked. I am now in the hub, and the hub is Study Central. This is just a nice big open space where people can study, plug their laptops in, or just sit and chat, have something to eat or drink. And you can see the McLaurin block behind me, and there is actually above here an upstairs which is actually part of the library. It's one of the blue zones in the library, and it's accessed from within the library. Here you can just see it up there. There it is. I'm in Easterfield block, and Easterfield doesn't seem to be a particularly interesting block until you notice something, which is that lift is actually different to these two, because these lifts were installed back in whenever the building was built, in what, the 50s or whatever. This one was actually a later addition to the building, but was designed to look the same as the others, so that you don't notice you're being decepted. Isn't that great? I realise that this video is starting to turn into interesting things about Victoria University's lifts rather than its buildings. So I thought we'd come up to the top of Easterfield and show you this. It's another little display here of things that you can look at. This is all about psychology stuff. So just another nice little display cabinet here. So there's something else interesting in the Easterfield building, and you can get a bit of a view from up here as well, but not really much because the library kind of obstructs most of your view, but you can see the central city over there, so another good place for a view. You can see Soames Island, so yeah, not bad. Okay, so we're in Kirk Building, and I don't have much to say about Kirk Building other than it is home to some of the best burgers and chips on campus. At Revive, behind me. What you'll also find in Kirk Building is this, which tells you that this building is named after Harry Borrow Kirk, the first professor of biology here, appointed in 1903. And it reads, "This building is founded upon his great services to Victoria College, which stands enriched by his inspiration and example. Colleagues and students of 1903 to 1940 hereby record their gratitude and affection and esteem." So, and there's a carving of what he looked like. So, yeah, Harry Kirk, as the building is so named after. Funny thing is, there's actually two Kirk blocks here, because I'm walking now out of Kirk and into this building, which is called Old Kirk. Yeah, that's right, there are two buildings named after Kirk. Now, the other interesting thing about Old Kirk is that this is the only building in this university not to have any lifts for disabled access. So if anybody in a wheelchair needs to get to the upper floors, then they have to go back into New Kirk and use the lifts there to get up to the upper floors of the Old Kirk building. This here is the Murphy Overbridge, a link between the Kirk block and the Murphy block, and my philosophy lecturer just walked past me. He didn't notice me though. Okay, so we are in the Murphy building, which is interesting for a couple of reasons. Firstly, because with 11 floors, this is the tallest building on campus, and secondly, because it is literally a zoo in here with a tuatara enclosure. Oh, where are they? There might not be one out at this time of the morning. Is there one out? Oh yes, there's one, look. There's a tuatara. It's a bit dark around here today. I promise you it's real, it's not a model. They do like to sit still, tuataras. There's one.
Just one today.
There's one in there as well. But the rest appear to all be hiding at the moment. There's some information on the Tuataras here as well. So yeah, we have a Tuatara enclosure. Isn't that amazing? Okay, here we are in the Hugh Mackenzie block, which interestingly has some very high ceilings, and is also interesting because it actually has a painting of Professor Hugh Mackenzie, whom this block is named after, the first professor of English. And this painting was presented in 1934. This painting was done. Yeah, one of the only buildings to have a painting of the person it's named after. Very cool. This is the von Zedlitz building, and the only really interesting thing about von Zedlitz building is how long it actually takes someone to learn how to say von Zedlitz when they first start at this university. But otherwise, this is mainly just an office block, and there's not really anything interesting here other than the spectacular name of von Zedlitz. Not to mention that these lifts keep pissing me off every time I come in this building because they're so unreliable. They're constantly getting stuck. Though I do suppose one interesting thing about the von Zedlitz building is that it's one of the few blocks at this university, along with Old Kirk and one or two others, that doesn't have a lecture theatre in it. It has a few seminar rooms and tutorial rooms and offices, but not a lecture theatre. Interesting. Okay, now I was telling a teensy lie when I said that Old Kirk was the only building not to have any lifts for the disabled, because the other building is the Robert Stout building behind me. But if you look at the sign here, it is kind of treated as sort of an extension of Hunter. There are lifts in Hunter Block, and there are bridges connecting Hunter to Robert Stout on every floor, and they're pretty much joined up now like one big building, so you could technically say that it does have lifts. Now let's go inside and have a look at some more interesting things. The Robert Stout and Hunter buildings are actually some of the oldest buildings on campus, built in the early 1900s, and there is actually a sign here about them. Now, the Hunter building, as it says here, was deemed an earthquake risk in 1974 and was going to be demolished if it wasn't for the Friends of Hunter Foundation that saved it from demolition. Now, it did have some refurbishment work done to it in the 1990s, and a lot of upgrades and stuff. That all needed to be done, but a lot of the original architecture has been preserved. Just look at this beautiful staircase. There's a statue here as well. Not entirely sure what that's meant to be. I've actually not noticed that before. But there is still so much of the original architecture has been preserved, which is very nice. It's a good thing that we're in the Hunter building, because I actually need to be in this building now for my philosophy lecture, which is fantastic. So I'm just going to take the lift upstairs and go to my lecture, and then I will take you round all of the other buildings when I'm finished. Behind me here is the Adam Art Gallery. This is an art gallery at the university. It's free entry, and it is a public art gallery. You don't have to be a student. Anybody can come up here. But today's Monday, and it's closed. Yeah, it's only open from 11 AM to 5 PM, Tuesday to Sunday. So today's Monday, it's closed. This is the Student Union block, famous not just for its outside seating area, but also for the fact that it is one of the only buildings in this university to not be named after a person. Instead, it's named after the Student Union. And there's a big atrium here as well. Big atrium. Also funny though, that's called the Hunter Lounge, when I think you'll find Hunter Block is over there somewhere. This isn't Hunter. Now the Student Union block is not so much an educational building, but more a place for services, lounges, and other kinds of interesting things as well. But despite that, it does still have a lecture theatre, the Memorial Theatre here on level 2. So still a lecture theatre in the Student Union block. Another thing that the Student Union block is home to is this place, Moriora. It's actually the university's own doctors, counsellors, physiotherapists, anything. You just sign up with them and you go in and you make an appointment. Easy. So there you have it. At least one interesting thing about every building at Victoria's Kelburn campus. That's it for this video, guys, and I'll see you next time on Factoid.